Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast video chat. This is the second one I've done since I've started to go to video chat. So, if you've listened to the podcast, you know Let Me Bend Your Ear is about movies, sports, and politics. Each show that I do is usually dedicated to one of those topics specifically. What I'm going to do with the video cast is kind of jump on for more recent topics or topics of the day. I don't really address those on the podcast because, like I stated before, if you listen to it at all, I try to concentrate on things that can be not time sensitive, things that you can listen to either when the podcast is dropped or a month from now or a year from now, where these will be more topics of the day. So I just wanted to get on and say, first of all, I'm going to start in the sports realm with the Super Bowl. So my home team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hey, Ren, how you doing? Good to see you. Buccaneers won the Super Bowl on Sunday. Of course, I'm ecstatic about it. I've been a lifetime fan of the team, and the opportunity to watch them win a Super Bowl in their home stadium is a unique experience and kind of cool. So I was happy to do that, to watch that. Wish I could have been there, but it was good to watch it on TV. I had a good feeling about the game all weekend. I know pretty much every national commentator, with the exception of a couple, picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win. And I guess on some level I understand it. I know that it's a pretty much, from what people say, is an unstoppable offense, and Patrick Mahomes, of course, is phenomenal. But there were some disturbing trends that I had noticed for Kansas City. Obviously, they had the linemen that were out. I thought that they were a team that was vulnerable, and not to say that I'm not gonna sit here and say that I knew the Bucks were gonna win the game, but I was confident that they would have a good showing, and I did not discount the fact, which I think a lot of people did, of how they peaked at the right time and beat three good opponents on the road. I would even include the Washington football team, who put up more of a fight than I think most people thought they would, and then they beat Breeze and Aaron Rodgers on the road. So I thought going into the Super Bowl, I thought they were in really good shape. I was confident that they would do well. Again, I wasn't going to guarantee a win, so I'm not going to say that after the fact, but I'm not surprised that they won. I am surprised at the dominance of the performance. I'm not going to lie. I did think it would be a high scoring game with both teams putting up points, and then literally whoever had the ball at the end would come back and win it. That's how I thought it was going to shake out. So the fact that it was a complete total domination by the Buccaneers was phenomenal and fantastic. One thing I am going to say about the game that I haven't talked about is the halftime show. So I tweeted something about this a little bit earlier regarding the Weekend show. So I know who the Weekend is, and I know a couple of his songs. I'm just going to say right up front, I didn't have an issue with the halftime performance, and I thought the songs were entertaining and good. The thing that I get irritated about every year, and I joked about it in the tweet, literally, no matter who they put up for the halftime performance, apparently everybody feels that they have to hate it. Uh, I did. Is it the best performance ever at a Super Bowl? It wasn't, but it was fine, and I was entertained, and I enjoyed the music, and I thought he made an effort to try to make an entertaining show. So, like I said, I joke tweeted today that they haven't announced next year's entertainer, but social media has already decided that they hate it. So I'm sure whoever they pick for next year's Super Bowl, everyone will hate it, regardless of whether it's good or not. So that's just kind of irritating. But again, super happy for the Buccaneers, happy for players that have been there a long time. Obviously, the addition of Tom Brady yielded the dividends that they were looking for, and especially with a season in COVID where you have a truncated, no preseason, no OTAs, basically just getting into the season and getting going, and no fans. So everything, all the challenges that the league and then the Buccaneers specifically had to meet, and then Tom Brady coming in, learning a new offense, learning the players. So they got to a 7-5 record. So I think a lot of fans were a little nervous about whether they were going to find their stride. My personal thought was that they were going to make a playoff run. My prediction at the beginning of the season was the end of the road for them would be the NFC Championship game. So had they done that, I would have been happy and consider that a successful season. So the fact that they won the Super Bowl is fantastic. What it bodes for next year, I think, is good things. I think they're going to keep most of the team intact. They'll probably lose a couple of people to free agency, but I think they're going to keep the core intact. And Arians has already said he's coming back. Brady's obviously coming back. Haven't heard about Gronkowski. The last I heard is that he is going to think about it for a few weeks before he makes a decision. So hopefully that happens as well. But I think the Bucks are going to be teed up next year to have another exciting season and hopefully maybe get back to the Super Bowl and repeat as champions. The other news that happened today, as I was driving, I found out that former head coach Marty Schottenheimer had passed away. I know last week his family had tweeted out that they were going to be putting him in hospice. So obviously that was an indication that that the end was near for him. So I want to talk a little bit about Marty. He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease back in 2014. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with Marty Schottenheimer, maybe younger people, he was a head coach of four different football teams, and he was a phenomenal coach. I think he got kind of a rap as not being able to win the big game in the playoffs. So he had some pretty crushing playoff losses, but at every stop he went to, three of the four stops he went to, he was a winning coach, took his team to the playoffs. He started with Cleveland, then had a successful run in Kansas City. He only had a 1 year stint in Washington. I think it was an 8-8 record there. I don't remember. But then he ended his career with several successful seasons with the San Diego Chargers in the early years of Philip Rivers. And one of the weird things there is he was fired, which I still don't understand. He was fired after a 14-2 season. I don't understand that. I don't know why you would do that. Don't get it. That team was phenomenal. That was Philip Rivers, Dalian Tomlinson, Sean Merriman. They had a fantastic football team, and he was a fantastic football coach. And other great coaches coached under him, including Bill Cowher, Tony Dungy. Um, he's got a pretty good coaching tree there, and he was a fantastic coach. Actually, going back to the Buccaneers, I know, and I think it was after they fired Chiano. I think there were some rumors out there that the Buccaneers would consider bringing him in on a short term basis to kind of turn things around because Marty was known to turn programs around. So everywhere he went, he left it better than when he got there. So he's had 200 wins as an NFL coach. So I think a lot of times he goes kind of unrecognized because of the lack of Super Bowl championships. But he was definitely a fantastic coach. So condolences to the Schottenheimer family. It was sad to hear that news as well. So that came off the wire today. Now, I'm going to move over to some entertainment slash movie stuff. So let me start again with another death. Christopher Plummer, the great actor who is best known for The Sound of Music, passed away at the age of 91. He's had a remarkable career both on the stage and the screen. Actually, if you saw the film Knives Out that came out last year, the really good murder mystery directed by Ryan Johnson, with a large cast: Jamie Lee Curtis, Chris Evans, Don Johnson, Christopher Plummer, Tony Collette. Great cast, great whodunit. If you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it. But he passed away. He had a very successful career and actually became the oldest male to win an Oscar at 82 years old in 2011 for the film Beginners, where he plays a grandfather that comes out as gay. Won an Academy Award for that performance. But great actor. I mean, he did varied work. I actually remember him in Star Trek 6, which is one of the really good later Star Trek films with the original cast. He was the villain in that film. That movie, written by Nicholas Meyer, who always had a lot of Shakespearean references in the films that he wrote in the Star Trek series, and a lot of good dialogue in Star Trek 6 that is spoken by Christopher Plummer, who is, of course, a Shakespearean trained actor as well. So sad loss there for Christopher Plummer and for the movie world. So my condolences as well to his family. The other thing I'm going to talk about movie wise is Delroy Lindo. So if you're not familiar with his work, African American actor, wonderful actor, has been around forever. He's most recently been, at least on television, he's on The Good Fight. I don't watch that show, but he's on there with Christine Baranski, and he's been in films for quite a long time, and including the Spike Lee film Crooklyn, and the more recent Spike Lee film, which I'm going to talk about what's going on here, the Five Blood. So I reviewed that movie for the podcast over the summer when it was released on Netflix, and I highly recommend it. It's one of Spike Lee's best films in years. And Delroy Lindo's performance in that film is the main reason to watch it. His performance is just magnetic. He plays a conservative, Trump-loving Vietnam veteran with some PTSD and some issues with his son. The performance is just unbelievable. One of the best performances of the year. I said it at the time of the podcast. He has received several nominations and some wins from some of the film critics circles around the country. But if you're aware, the Golden Globe nominations came out recently, and he wasn't nominated, which is ridiculous. Um, you're basically telling me that he did not give one of the five best performances by a lead actor in a film this year, and I'm telling you that's nonsense. I don't understand how that performance is not recognized. Now Chadwick Boseman is also into Five Bloods, and I know there's a lot of momentum for him. Obviously, another sad passing that occurred earlier in 2020. Shocking that he was battling cancer and kept that a secret, so nobody knew it when he passed away. He's getting a lot of momentum for his performance in The Five Bloods and also in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, the other film on Netflix, which I have not seen yet, but I heard his performance is fantastic, and it turns out to be his final performance. So there's been a lot of momentum for him, but with Delroy Lindo, like I said, he's been a great actor for a long time, and this performance is one of the best he's ever given. So I'm hopeful that the Oscars will recognize his performance with a nomination. The Golden Globes are usually sometimes an arbiter of it. I'm not an expert of how accurate they are in predicting what the Oscar nominations are going to be, but I do think it's. I'm a little concerned that that nomination will not be given to him, which would be ridiculous because he gave a great performance in that movie. So again, welcome to the live stream if you're on now, either on Facebook or on Twitter. I am the host. I fly solo on the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. I occasionally have a co-host. Actually, my unofficial co-host is Neve, who is the author of the Crime in My Pocket blog. So she comes on. She's a avid horror fan. She has a segment on here called Hidden Horror Gems that she does occasionally. We're actually in the process of trying to get a show recorded. We're going to start talking about some 90s horror films because that's what she's been watching lately. So we've got a show that we're going to do at some point, and hopefully in the near future. Uh, like I said, the podcast is about sports, movies, and politics. You can find the podcast wherever you get podcasts, and then obviously here on Facebook. There's also a YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to that at Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. As I stated, I've recently come into the video realm, and I'm starting to record these video casts, and then also the audio podcast in video form, so I can have the podcast both on the feed that like it is traditionally now, and have people be able to watch it on YouTube and Facebook if they prefer to consume the podcast that way. So again, I would appreciate it if you would click on Twitter, Bend Your Ear Pod here if you're looking at the video, and follow me on Twitter. I am on Instagram as well. The handle is the same at Bend Your Ear Pod. The Facebook channel, I'm on my personal Facebook, but the podcast Facebook page is Let Me Bend Your Ear. These live videos will be posted there as well. So you can see videos there. And then also, I've got about 5 or 6 podcasts back. But if you go to the podcast feed, you can subscribe to it. Click subscribe wherever you get it. Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, and Amazon Music. So you can get the podcast there. So please subscribe, check it out. If you do listen, especially on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. I ask that because it's a huge help in getting the podcast seen in searches when people are looking for new podcasts to listen to. So look, I'm an independent podcaster. I fly solo on this one. So the ratings and reviews are extremely helpful and trying to get this out there. So obviously by me going into the video realm in the last few weeks, is my effort to get out there to a bigger audience. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the audience I have now. Always trying to grow the podcast. If you like what you hear, or if you think someone would like the content, please recommend it to a friend. If you want to email me at the show, the email is bendyourearpodcast@gmail.com. The latest episode that I recorded about 2 weeks ago is a review of the Pixar movie Soul, and also the Regina King directed One Night in Miami. So check those out. And like I said, check out the back catalog. I have a lot of movie reviews. I do sports. The third leg of this podcast is politics. I haven't really done much politics lately. With the obvious things that have been going on with this election and kind of the polarization. If you've listened to my podcast at all, you understand that. But for those that are just watching this in here and don't know what I do with politics, let me be clear that I'm a nonpartisan political commentator on this podcast. I am frankly kind of disgusted with both sides of the aisle here. I think there is a lot of talking and not a lot of action. So if you do come to this podcast, I want to ease your mind that I'm not a pundit on either side or the other. If you listen to any of my political episodes of this podcast, if you go back and check it out, you'll see that I pretty much am an equal opportunity blaster when it comes to criticizing whichever party is in power, whichever president is in power, and kind of what my thoughts are on that. I've done a couple of episodes on the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. I know there's a very good documentary about that. If you don't know who he was the Saudi Arabian journalist that lived in the United States and wrote for the Washington Post, who was brutally murdered in Turkey when he was trying to get papers to marry his fiancee. And that murder was carried out by representatives of the Saudi government. In my opinion, or not my opinion, the intelligence proves it that the Mohammed bin Salman knew about it, if not ordered it. So that's where I talk about things that have political tinges to them. I think the response to that murder from the Trump administration was not even remotely appropriate as far as just kind of giving them a pass. So those are the things I talk about. And with the new administration in here, like I said, I'm just going to call it as I see it. It has nothing to do with whether I voted or didn't vote for Biden. It doesn't even have an. I'm going to call out things that I think are wrong, and I'm going to give praise if praise is warranted for what any administration or particular politician does, regardless of what their political party is. I am an advocate of third parties anyway. I'm an advocate of alternative views being listened to, and and other ideas to get our political gridlock moved forward. So that's where I come from there. So like I said, if you do like some tinge of politics in your podcast, I have it here. But like I said, there's not going to be any punditry. There's not going to be any right wing, left wing um, punditry from me on this podcast. So like I said, I'll get back to doing politics after the election. I needed a break from it, so I've been concentrating on movies and sports. And movies is my number one love, probably followed by sports. So I wanted to bring that out there. So again, the podcast is the podcast is called "Let Me Bend Your Ear." I've been doing it for about 2 years. So again, if this is the first time you've seen the video, you're checking it out, I really appreciate it. Please like the video, share the video. If you've been listening to the podcast or a regular listener to it, I want to thank all of you that have listened to it. I really appreciate that. Like I said, if it's something you like, continue to listen. If you want to share with a friend, I would appreciate that as well. Again, you can follow the show on Twitter at Bend Your Ear Pod. If you're watching on Facebook, if you see you're on Twitter now, just click follow me here. I tweet not all the time, but I tweet here and there. And like I said, if you're another podcaster, let me know. Follow me. I'll follow you back. The independent podcasting community has been wonderful, and I have no problem supporting other podcasts. So please follow. And like I said, subscribe to the Facebook page, Let Me Bend Your Ear, or the YouTube channel, which is Let Me Bend Your Ear Podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I appreciate everybody that came on tonight, or if you're going to watch the video later. Take care. I hope everybody has a great evening. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the